Well, welcome everybody. It's that time of the month again, into January now, and it's time to do what's probably going to be, people are anticipating would be a large video. It's post-holiday pickups video. Not that like I got a lot of video games for anything. I got a couple things like that, but mostly it's like people, you get money and then you go and you pick stuff up afterwards. I hope everyone had a great holiday, whatever it is that you celebrate, and got some great stuff, like similar to what I got or not similar to what I got. I'm going to start off with the first thing that makes me think like, oh yeah, I hope plenty of people got one of these, Super Nintendo Classic. First of all, this is like one of the only things gaming related that I actually got for Christmas, and I've made, specifically, I'm trying to block the freaking window back there. It's sunny out today, it's still cold as hell, it's ridiculous. So I got a Super Nintendo Classic. It's basically, what's funny about this to me is, I have still almost no interest in the NES Classic. It's not that it's, I've seen them plenty of times. It's not like it's not a cool system or anything like that, but they don't really interest me because it's games that I either already have or you can play somewhere else or something like that. The Super Nintendo Classic, even though it has less games on it, has things that, like, when I look at it, I'm like, yeah, I want to play this, and this right now, I'll always be in the mood for that. So the Super Nintendo Classic, the Wednesday before Black Friday, I actually was in a store, I was in a GameStop, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to ask if they have SNES Classics. If they do, that's going to be a thing for Christmas, because I'm not going to send anybody out to try and get one. Not that they were difficult to find, but just on the off chance that they were, I wasn't going to send anybody to multiple different stores. So I got one, grabbed it for myself. It sits over here, right behind my Switch, because this is all you need. What's really cool, actually, is it runs off of micro USB power and regular HDMI, so I can actually just steal both of those from things I have lying around for the Switch anyway. So that's really, no big deal. It's really, really, really convenient. Box is real small, looks great. I haven't played that much of it yet. I played some Contra, I got my ass kicked. I played some Donkey Kong Country. I have it. It's really cool. Really, really nice to have. Awesome stuff. And then a few quick one-off things here. So the other major, like, gaming thing that I got for Christmas, because I have the best boss in the world. I'm so lucky to, be able to work for basically my best friend at this point. And he knew that for a long, long time I have wanted one of these Hori mini pads. This is the first time, like, getting it for Christmas was the first time I even held one in my hands, and it is so, so awesome. The only thing, like, there's going to be some games that are better for it than others, but in general, I am so impressed with this thing. It's really, like, I just wanted one. I just was like, I love these controllers. They're so, like, good controllers. I just want to have, like, one of them to just have it as an option. And this is now, like, one of my favorite things in my N64 collection. I have not used it yet. I'm waiting for the right game. I probably won't use it on Wild Lake Country Club, which I'm going to be doing later today. It's not, that's not a game that really lends itself to this, but there are going to be games I'm definitely going to be like, yes, like 3D action games, especially with this basic GameCube control stick. I'm going to be really into that. It's not going to be great for wrestling games or anything like that with the D-pad, because the D-pad's small and in the middle. But the buttons really highlights one of the things that I think is really good about the N64 controller, which is the lineup of the buttons to, like, that arcade stick style. And the C buttons are a little bit bigger, which really likens itself to that. So this is really cool. I love this thing. I'm so grateful for it. That'll be shown off at some point, playing. And then as usual, now that we've gotten the two big things out of the way, the one Switch game that I got this month, which I was looking forward to for a really long time and did not disappoint at all, is the End Is Nigh. I think this game was brilliant. I love the style of platforming that it is. I love the type of difficulty that it is. I already reviewed it for the site. I absolutely loved it. I'm starting to think of Edmund McMillan the guy who did this, Super Meat Boy, Binding of Isaac, I'm starting to think of him the way that people think of Hideo Kojima, that they just think that, Hideo Kojima is one of the best developers of all time and just think he's a genius. I think of Edmund McMillan like that now because he's 3 for 3 with major game releases for me, and I just think it's brilliant. Let me get a sip of coffee in here. And then yeah, three more just like quick one-off things here. This is the first Neo Geo Pocket Color game that I've bought since I bought the system like almost 2 years ago now, and I'm really glad that I finally just pulled the trigger and got anything, especially a fighting game, because with so many fighting games, they're all good. I didn't have any fighting games for it, so I went with King of Fighters R2 because it's one of the cheaper ones, and I was able to just pick this up and be like, yes, I scratched that itch, like, got a Neo Geo Pocket Color game that I need to play the system more, and, it's such a great system. I absolutely love the NGPC. I could go on and on about it, but really, really glad to have another game for it, another good game, because it's not like there's any really bad games on it. King of Fighters R2, strong as any of the fighting games on there. I didn't go for Capcom vs. SNK is probably the top tier. That and Gals Fighters, but those are both a bit pricey. Next up, the first time I've even seen this game in person, and I bought it immediately, Gunstar Superheroes, the GBA exclusive sequel to my favorite Genesis game, Gunstar Heroes. It's by Treasure, of course. Treasure being one of my favorite companies. Just so hardworking and so smart and so brilliant at working these, just over effort, like, extends almost too much effort into their games sometimes, which can go work against them, but Gunstar Heroes is probably maybe their best work. It's one of my favorite games, and I've literally never tried, or even seen the GBA one, so it is. And then, very, very rarely do I ever pick up Super Nintendo or older cartridge games at this point, but I got some Frank Thomas Big Hurt Baseball. Basically the predecessor to All-Star Baseball, and they were already starting to use a little bit of the 3D modeling stuff even in the Super Nintendo and Genesis versions of this. So it's not the best baseball game on the system, but love Frank Thomas, he's great. And just, it's not a bad baseball game. It was really cheap, so I grabbed this too. So, cool stuff. Not one, but two video games somehow this month. This was The Walking Dead. I finally grabbed The Walking Dead, which is probably the baseline Telltale series game that people pick up. And having it on the Vita is a huge plus. And yeah, this maybe will be my my experience with The Walking Dead, because I've never watched the show and have really no interest in The Walking Dead, but a new video game is cool. It's always good. And then, of course, this is Uncharted Golden Abyss, and I feel so stupid because I bought a loose one and printed the cover for it, but this is the major one game that I wanted to play on the Vita and hadn't bought it yet and hadn't gotten it, and was starting to not even see, complete copies of it out, so I was like, I'll print it, I'll get it, but Uncharted Golden Abyss, I'll finally be able to play, get back into playing my Vita and play Uncharted like I always wanted to. Couple DS, one DS and 4 3DS games in here. I'll start, these two are related, the only DS game and the one of the 3DS games. These, I went on a little bit of a tear on Amazon the other day after I paid off my bill and was in that fresh post-holiday feeling, was yeah, you can buy stuff on Amazon for yourself now, it's gonna be cool. So I got two Kunio-kun games, which I had seen marked down quite a bit. This is the Super Sports Challenge on the DS, and this is the River City Rival Showdown on the 3DS. There is another 3DS one that is still $30. But I do love the Kunio-kun, River City Ransom games, Super Dodgeball, so on. So grabbing these, they're both still sealed, but it's not like I intend to keep them sealed. I literally just got them the other day. So that's great stuff. Those two are still pretty cheap too. They've been marked down quite a bit. So if that's something you're into, definitely hop on that. And then A game I'd had my eye on for a long time and never pulled the trigger on because it is a tactical RPG, first and foremost. Project X Zone. Kind of the crossover between Namco and Capcom that we never got in the United States originally. But it is a tactical RPG, and then the battles themselves are like more action-oriented, so once it dropped below $10, I grabbed it. Funny how I have several tactical RPGs for the 3DS, and it's probably the one genre I'm not really into because I'm so bad at it and so bad at getting into it, but you know, that's whatever it is. This probably is trash. It's Dual Pen Sports, published by Bandai. This was like $3, and I was like, you know what? It's complete. I've never seen it before. $3 3DS game. Yeah, give me it. It's supposed to come with 2 styli inside of it because dual pen. I guess everything is lay it on the table and play it with like this. But those weren't in there. Bummer. Whatever. It's got terrible ratings on GameFAQs, but for $3 you can get some enjoyment out of it for sure. And then Nicktoons MLB 3D. Obviously, I'm way past the point of knowing most of the characters that are going to be in this game and most of the players that are going to be in this game. But it's going to be fast, arcadey baseball, and SpongeBob will still be in it, so, you know, that's cool. Jimmy Neutron's in it, too. So, and Stimpy and Invader Zim. So I think they ran out of characters that they could do that would actually be toons, like cartoon-style characters, because I know they do, like, all their live-action stuff now. So they had to bring back Invader Zim and Stimpy in there, too, so that's pretty funny to me. Yeah, that's cool. That one's on consoles, too. No, that's a big deal. Keep not knowing what to do with my phone. Let's keep going at the ones that are smaller stacks. There's only 2 Wii games here. One is Sega Bass Fishing for the Wii. I'm still not sure. I have to really try it before I figure it out. If this is a straight port of the Dreamcast one, or if it's a slightly different one. But, you know, it's a fishing game, and it's Sega Bass Fishing. It is the fishing game. So, grab that for the Wii. It'll be the next best thing to having the fishing rod controller. And then a really crappy port of a point-and-click adventure game from the PC that's probably not that bad. Nancy Drew, The White Wolf of Icicle Creek. It's published by Sega, and it's halfway, like, difficult to find, so I grabbed it when I saw it for, like, $4 complete, so definitely not the best game I've picked up, but I have this obsession with grabbing these point-and-click adventure games for the Wii, because you get to, you know, point-and-click. It's a type of game that I like and would play better ones of if I was a PC gamer, but I have to deal with whatever gets published on the Wii or similar stuff like that. And then there's only one GameCube game in here, which is a fairly, I mean, for a Sega published title by Sonic Team, it's fairly obscure. Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. I think most people are probably looking at this point as a hidden gem. I remember it got a lot of press when it came out, but probably nobody really cared to buy it, even though it was by Sonic Team and published by Sega. I really don't know that much about this game, but I saw it for a pretty good price with another deal going on, so I was like, you know what, that's going to be what makes me like pull the trigger on it. So Billy Hatcher and the Giant Egg. Some people love this game, so that was really, you know, a big factor in it. One GameCube game. Let's start. We will run down let's do Xbox stuff first. So, 3 Xbox original games. First of all, Phantom Dust, another game that I had wanted for a really, really long time and never even saw in person. So this is the first time I ever saw it. I grabbed it. I have, there's just this weakness for, like, the card, I'm not an RPG person, but if it somehow seems like it works in, like, cards and, like, that sort of level of strategy to it, I'm all of a sudden super into it. And Phantom Dust is, like, this big hidden gem that's supposed to be fantastic from the original Xbox. So I'd wanted this game for a long time. I might not, I look at the back and I'm like, I might not be able to understand this game, but it's supposed to be that good, worth me giving it a try. Silent Scope Complete, the precursor to all these sniper games that we have now that are probably like super easy to make and everything. Just the convenience of having them all on the one disc. I like the idea of the package of it. And it's an arcade game, so it's not like it's super like difficult. It's not really about stealth or anything like that. It's just, it's an arcade game. It's a good arcade game if you ever see the machine. Big, huge machine with a sniper rifle like this long on it. It's cool stuff. There is an Xbox light rifle that came out for it. If you ever see it and have the ability to use it, it's probably really cool on a tube TV with the space for it, because it's really, really long. It's like 2.5 feet long. But it would definitely be a big selling point in wanting to play these games. It would definitely help a lot. And then last, Shrek Super Party. It probably looks like shovelware, and it probably is, but you'd be surprised how many people I've seen at this point actually saying they want to play it. And I found this at a thrift store and was like, yes, this is going to get me to try this game. Ideally, it would have been on the GameCube if I was going to get it, especially because it's a party game. But another system with 4 controller ports on it is not too bad either. It's got some terrible, terrible ratings on GameFAQs and everything, but it's got those people that actually played it with people, and it's got like a reputation. It's not like it's called favorite. So definitely really, really funny to pick this up. The one thing that supposedly is worth buying out of all those garbage shovelware Shrek games from the PS2 era. Actually, a good stack here of 360 games this month. Some cool like filler stuff in between. First I got the Bigs. The first one, I kind of just had disc onlys of the Bigs 1 and 2, and I remember playing the Bigs 2 specifically on my PSP a long time ago, and that was fantastic. But the Bigs got down to being like a, nobody seems to want it, throwaway game at like $3-4. So I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna try the 360 version, see if it's different, see if it's better, because they had held their value for a long time, and now that I'm seeing them drop, I'm like, well, I might as well try one of them. Bigs 2 on 360 and PS3 always held its value really well. It used to be like $20, now it's like 10. So I don't know if that was a rarity thing or whatever. Dead Island Riptide. So I had played Dead Island a long time ago, and being basically the precursor to Dying Light, which I also tried to do, still have on my PS4. Not super into it. I kind of put off grabbing any Dead Island games, even though they're always been super cheap for a long time. But I figured, you know what, people are really still kind of talking about Dead Island in a way. So I figured it was kind of worth trying to pick up the one that I hadn't played, see if it was any different, see if I liked it any better. And it's a zombie game. Like it's weird for me to be like, yeah, I don't want to buy that zombie game because I tried it and wasn't really into it. Even though it has all the things that should make me into it. So then just grab that. The one that I hadn't played, that's the important part. It's like, well, it's a new game to me in a way. Hunted the Demon's Forge. This is one of those games that makes me go, wow, Bethesda has their things that they do really well, and then they try to do a bunch of other things, and they have no idea how to put games out or what games to select for their publishing, however the hell it works. But it's funny to me that people trust Bethesda so strongly and think of them as a huge major publisher, when really it's just about them making Fallout and Skyrim, which are the same game in different settings. But this is Hunted the Demon's Forge, and it's got like some halfway decent ratings. It's just funny when people hype this game up. I remember this game had hype. I'm trying to think of their other games, but I'm drawing a blank right now. But it's funny to me when Bethesda's published games get hype and then they're immediately forgotten. So this game was $3. It's dungeon crawler, and dungeon crawlers are worth a try to me if I can get into it. On the back, Kotaku apparently said it was a dungeon crawl for the Gears Age. So, I guess it's dark and brown. Whatever. This is another one. This is a game that it's tough to trust this because it's published by South Peak, and South Peak has been publishing games as far as I remember since the N64, and they never get a whole lot of attention. But sometimes they get a halfway decent one, and every time I see these cheap games that I've never heard that much about, I check them on GameFAQs, and this one had surprisingly good ratings. It's not in the above 3.6 where they start to call it number so-and-so highest rated, but I basically do trust anything at this point that is above like 3.1 if it's super cheap and I can maybe get some enjoyment out of it. So that is sort of with this game, and it looks like it's a mech game, and immediately I'm turned off by that, but apparently it's just a third-person shooter, so if it plays more like a regular, like, action-y game instead of like a mech sim, I'm definitely going to give it a try. So Section 8, weird title, weird publisher, weird developer, Timegate, I've never heard of any of that, but, you know, half-decent ratings, so, sure, bring it on. This is a game that I picked up more as a, a point of pride, like a, look at this game I have. You might have heard of it. It's Right to Hell Retribution, 1%, whatever the hell. I basically, if you haven't heard of it, I consider it, from the things that I've heard about it, to be the room of video games in this sort of last couple of generations. It's bad, it's broken, but it's most importantly, it is the most try-hardest, like, poorly written, exploitative to women, because there's, like, so many fucking unnecessary sex scenes and everything like that. Like, it's just so bad in so many ways that it reaches the room levels of so bad it's good, from the things that I've seen of it and things that I've seen of it being played, that it's definitely something I will try and see if it is so bad that it's good. But other than that, it's just something to hold on to and be like, yeah, I have Right to Hell on Xbox. So, yeah. Don't think I bought this game because I thought it looked good like all those other games. I know this is a terrible, terrible game. But that's why I bought that. A game that is not really usually my sort of thing. I think of this and Fuel in the same boat. But Pure, which you've probably seen a million times on those Lego Batman Pure combo packs for the 360. It's worth noting, it's developed by BlackRock and published by Disney, which is the same, basically makes it in the same series as Split Second, which, another generic looking racing game that's actually supposed to be pretty good. But both Pure and Fuel are in the 1001 video games to play before you die book that I have, that I always flip through every once in a while and see if there's anything that I'm like, I hadn't heard of that. I'll try that, whatever. So because of that, I'm halfway interested in trying both of those games. And Pure, basically is MotorStorm, which is cool. MotorStorm without all the ridiculous other vehicles besides the ATVs and stuff. But anyway, finally was like, yeah, you know what? I like this visual style. I like that it's by a company that made a good racing game before, and it's in that book, so I'll try it. Time Shift. So this is another one. I actually printed this case too. I was kind of pressed for time at a store, so I was like, you know what? It was a GameStop buy two get one free, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna grab this one and print a case for it. But it's published by Sierra, and oddly enough, given that they published Fear and a couple other games, it's not like Sierra is a publisher I don't trust. And even though this game is not supposed to be that great or anything like that, it is a weird first-person shooter, and I'll bring that up later, that I buy first-person shooters just to see if they're decent. There's really not that much to say about this game. It was cheap. It was a first-person shooter that I haven't tried before, and I'll give any of those games basically a shot, as long as they're not like super tactical. Another game, this is not a first-person shooter, but it's interesting to me because it's one of the last two games that was made by Silicon Knights. Silicon Knights made Eternal Darkness for the GameCube, and then they made this game, which got a lot of hype, and X-Men Destiny. And between those two games, those basically put them under, and is one of the major factors in why we haven't gotten an Eternal Darkness sequel, at least not made by the original developers. But this is also, it's got like some weird like Norse mythology stuff mixed into it with like modern sci-fi. Not supposed to be great or anything, but it's, action game. Most of these games fall into the fact of like, I build a collection and I buy these games cheap, and that's why you see me buy Two Human, Time Shift, all this shit that isn't really that exciting, but is interesting. And that's, I think, the Xbox 360 games that I bought this month. 2 Human Time Shift, Pure, Section 8, Hunted the Demon's Forge. Those are pretty much really the prime examples of how I collect stuff. Is I buy this cheap stuff that people don't know, or that I don't know much about, and I'm like, yeah, let's give it a try. It's always fun to buy Tetris games. The Tetris Evolution had actually held its value for a long time. It used to be like a $15 game, but I got it in like a 4 for $20 thing last week or whatever, and it's like, yeah, you know what? Another Tetris game, the Tetris on 360. So yeah, definitely worth giving a try. I don't know what makes it different, but it's worth seeing if it can compete with my favorite Tetris game, the new Tetris on N64, which is still a long ways off on the N64 quest, but whatever. And then lastly, I love to pick up these like Sherlock Holmes games, and this game used to, like I said, with a lot of other games, used to hold its value a bit, and then it was really cheap. All of a sudden, I was like, yep, I'm grabbing it. So, Testament of Sherlock Holmes. So I'm really glad I have Testament of Sherlock Holmes. On 360, I also have Sherlock Holmes vs. Jack the Ripper, which I really never see. And also on PS4, I have Crimes and Punishment. I should play all of those games. I've only played a little bit of Crimes and Punishment. It's a lot to take in, but I love Sherlock Holmes. I love that type of game, that mystery adventure game. So, really glad to grab that. And then, lastly, we just got to go through the PlayStation stack 2, 3, and 4. So, see some stuff for the PS2. There's only 4 games for the PS2, but all kind of cool. This is a trend that you'll see me bring back a little bit later, but this is NFL Game Day 2003. I bought this for one reason and one reason only: Tom Brady. I kind of realized, I was like, you know, it's funny. The year after the Patriots won that first Super Bowl in 2000, the Super Bowl took place in 2002, and that was Patriots-Rams. And then the 2003 football games came out in August, September-ish of that year. And Brady, the Super Bowl MVP, the, like, Cinderella story, like, crazy breakout star, made the cover of crappy knockoff 989 Sports NFL football game. Marshall Faulk, on the losing team, made the cover of Madden 2003. So it's funny, just to me, like, both games featured players from Super Bowl teams, but the crappier one is, obviously I have a bias because it's Brady, and, you know, I want Madden 18 in a couple years because it's got Brady on the cover, and there's another game in here that I bought just because of the well, actually several other games in here that I bought because he was on the cover. But still always funny to me to think of NFL Game Day 2003, Brady. Madden 2003, Marshall Faulk. Marshall Faulk was the loser of the Super Bowl. To put it kind of bluntly, obviously. Marshall Faulk on the losing tide of that. MLB Power Pros 2008, and I always keep bringing up GameFAQs. I check GameFAQs ratings, see if it's, you know, makes it worth picking up. MLB Power Pros 2008 on the PS2 has the highest rating of any sports game on the PS2, and think about how crazy that is when you look at how many sports games must there be on the PS2. MLB Power Pros 2008, one of the Power Pros series that has been great for 20 years now, has the highest rating of any sports game on the PS2, above MVP 2005, above Madden 12, which you'd be surprised how high that rating is, even compared to the other Madden games. Above NFL 2K5, way above even Power Pros 1. And I have Power Pros 1 on the Wii. You can use a classic controller on that, so it's kind of the same game. Excuse me. But yeah, really love those games. Really gotta have that one on PS2, I guess. Also, Kao The Kangaroo Round 2. This is a sequel that's actually, it's not, it might be on Xbox, but I know it's on PS2 and GameCube, and basically the sequel to a Dreamcast platformer. And of course, the Dreamcast one is kind of expensive, but they're pretty like meh platformers from what I've seen. So it's Round 2 is not that expensive. Round 1, the first game, because it's on the Dreamcast, and I imagine nobody bought it. It's actually getting fairly pricey. That doesn't mean it's worth picking up. And then, like I said, you know, this actually has really high ratings on GameFAQs now that I remember looking it up. I always confused it for a long time with Cold Fear. I'm like trying to think of which one is the one that I really wanted. And Cold Fear was the one that I really wanted. Because it's like Resident Evil 4, basically. Resident Evil 4, carrier from the Dreamcast being turned into Resident Evil 4. This is more of a, like, generic looking, but apparently pretty decent first-person shooter. Sierra published it. I really, you know, it's funny to me that Sierra, even in the 2000s when they started to, like, falter a little bit, I do trust them a lot, oddly enough. Like I said, with Time Shift, with Cold Winter, I don't write games off if they have Sierra on the cover. They didn't have the money to put out like AAA titles, except for Fear. Fear kind of made itself into that way. So that's it for PS2. Now on to PS3. I actually got a fair amount of PS3 games, and like I said, first-person shooters, Syndicate, which I think is related to a Super Nintendo game. From EA as well. I can't say for sure. It's got a similar like sci-fi style. I think it's EA. It might be Ocean. I might be confusing it with something. But anyway, it is developed by Starbreeze Studios, who, if I remember correctly, also developed The Darkness, which is a pair of games that I love. So yeah, definitely was definitely worth giving this one a try. Just, you know, being a first-person shooter. A couple things, too, that interested me. I finally grabbed one of the Ratchet and Clank games for the PS3, because I actually had not had any of them. But I got Tools of Destruction, which I'm pretty sure is the first one on PS3. You can imagine it's still one of the older ones, based on the text over here. And actually, because it's Ratchet and Clank, I'm going to jump one of them ahead in this pile, one game. This one here. Because it leads directly into why I bought this other game that's probably pretty crappy. But yeah, there's a bunch of other Ratchet and Clank games. You know, they're all around $10 to $15, but I grabbed this one in a deal, so I got it cheapest. Ratchet and Clank, we all know about that one. It's great. With Insomniac, though, I have a thing for Insomniac because of that. I love Ratchet and Clank. I'm pretty sure it's Spyro. I'm pretty sure it's not a different series, but Spyro. I really trust them a lot, and so I gave a shot to Fuse, which seems to be like a flop, basically. But, you know, it's Insomniac, and it was cheap, and I was like, yeah, you know what? It's just that Insomniac logo right there that made me buy it. That was the number one reason. So you gotta show them a little bit of love. Red Faction Armageddon, Volition Inc., that's all it has to be. Volition Incorporated seems to me to be one of the more underrated developers from the PS2, PS3 era. Obviously, they came into their own at this point with Saints Row and what they've made out of Saints Row. I'm pretty sure that's them. So now I'm second guess myself on everything, but so they made Red Faction 1 and 2, which are really good first-person shooters. They also made the Summoner games, which are surprisingly good too, from what I've heard. This is the fourth Red Faction game, and now that I have this, I have to get the one before it. This is Armageddon, so I have to get Red Faction Guerrilla. Both supposed to be pretty good. Also, I really like the sci-fi, like Total Recall style of like takes place on Mars, and it's all about revolution stuff. I like that idea too. Speaking of having to get other... now that I have this one, I have to get another one. I grabbed God of War Ascension, finally. This is the one God of War game that I haven't played. This one and Ghost of Sparta. I haven't played Ghost of Sparta yet. But this, I got a long time ago as a free download, I think. It was either free or was like heavily discounted, and I hadn't decided yet that I don't want downloads of games I can buy on physical for the most part. So I had this on PS3 for a long time. It took up a lot of space on my hard drive, and it's finally like a $4 or $5 game. So I was like, yeah, I just gotta grab that. Maybe I'll actually play it. But now that I've grabbed this, I realize I don't have God of War 3 anymore. I gotta grab God of War 3 on PS3, which is dirt cheap. So yeah, God of War Ascension. Sure, we all know about that one, the prequel. This is another like first-person shooter that I buy because I like first-person shooters. It's supposed to be half decent. And actually, conceptually, this game, Legendary, seems really interesting to me. You're basically killing old school like mythical monsters and stuff, roaming across New York City because someone opened Pandora's box, which is such a really cool concept to me. And then it probably isn't that great, but it's just like, man, I gotta grab that stupid game just because it seems so interesting. That's Legendary. It's pretty cool. A game that I really, when you think about it, I kind of hate because it should be so much better than it is. But I got Lord of the Rings Conquest again, which I'd had before and sold because I was like, God, I hate that game. It should be so much better. It's basically supposed to be Star Wars Battlefront for Lord of the Rings, which means I'm supposed to love it. But it's kind of messy. It's kind of not what it's supposed to be. I'm actually hanging out with a friend of mine today who still plays this. Still, he's obsessed with Lord of the Rings. His whole left arm is a sleeve of Lord of the Rings tattoos. Like, that is his one, like, super nerdy thing that he gets into. And we've talked about this game before, and he was like, man, I would look at the outfits that some of the soldiers have, some of the basically infantry level people that you play as, and I'd point out things that were wrong about them. Like, it almost seems like it wasn't given enough attention. Like, there's no attention to detail in it. It's really a lot of wasted potential. It's a baseline, like, decent game, and it still holds its value a lot, which makes me angry. That I had to pay like $15 for this game again. But yeah, don't expect too much out of this game just because it's pandemic. It's supposed to be Star Wars Battlefront and Lord of the Rings. It's not. It's less than the sum of its parts. That's what's so frustrating about it. Another super dirt cheap game that I was like, you know what? For the expectation that I have out of this game, it is a car combat game with a Mad World style visuals. It's all black and white. This game, Mayhem, actually it's supposed to be Mayhem 3D, and I'm so glad that this copy still has these 3D glasses that you can use on any TV to get a 3D sensation out of this. This was a budget title when it came out. It's got abysmal ratings on like GameFAQs and stuff. But man, you know what else has abysmal ratings on GameFAQs and most sites? Blood Drive, and I loved Blood Drive for the 360. I played the hell out of that game. So you know what? If I can get just a little bit of entertainment out of this game, it's so worth it. Especially to have a game that has NETV 3D on it, and it's made by Left Field, which is the company that made. I don't think it's both. It's not both Ken Griffey and Kobe Bryant on the N64, but it's at least one of those. I'm pretty sure. Excuse me. And seeing their name again was like, oh my god, I gotta, like, it's kind of like buying a game just because it's made by Insomniac. It's like, Left Field, man. Left Field is still making games, apparently. So yeah, I totally grab this for $3. And then the last PS3 game, this is another game that I've had before, and was like, God, I gotta get it. Heavy Rain, and I'm glad I just got Heavy Rain Director's Cut instead of just the plain one, but, what do I say about Quantic Dream games? Like, I want them to be my favorite games, because they're so, like, I love that there's a big focus on story, that there's a big focus on playing like a movie, and doing it really well, and every game from Quantic Dream is not as good as it's supposed to be. And David Cage tries so hard, and I respect him for what he tries to do. But I'll always say, every Quantic Dream game, Indigo Prophecy, Beyond Two Souls, Heavy Rain, and probably going to happen again with Detroit Become Human, has been outdone on their first try by Supermassive Games and Until Dawn. Until Dawn is the best example of this type of game, and it's not by David Cage, the guy who basically has made his whole career on them. But Heavy Rain, I've played this game before, and I realized that when I got to the end, I was like, there's no reason to play for the other endings, because you know what the other endings are already if you play this game once. Man, I gotta try this again and just see. That's an older pickup, so yeah, that wasn't from this month.
What, November 2014?
2014.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an old pickup. Yeah, man, Heavy Rain. I remember getting a PS3 and thinking that Heavy Rain was going to be one of the games that I was really, really going to be into. And I played this game, and I played Indigo Prophecy, and I've seen enough of Beyond Two Souls to know, don't get that excited about David Cage games, because he's not the mastermind that he probably thinks he is. And with that, we're going to move on to PS4 games, and there's 5 of them. At first, I was actually thinking there might only be 2 for this month, and they were both going to be sports games. But this is what I mean when I say I buy games because of who's on the cover. This is Madden 17, and it has Gronk on it. Like I said, I'm going to want Madden 18 for Brady. There's no real reason to get this for gameplay-wise, but at least Madden 18 has like that story mode, that long shot mode or whatever it's called. So I'm super into that. I'll definitely give that a try when I pick that up. This is just to have on the shelf and have Gronk on it. MLB The Show 17, though, has Ken Griffey on it. Obviously, I love Ken Griffey. He's Nintendo's boy, and I would have bought this game even if it didn't have this mode in it. But I loved, and I want to play this game soon, because it has a retro mode, kind of like the Super Nintendo MLB featuring Ken Griffey Jr., and that's why I paid more than $10 for this game, because I was like, man, I really want to try that. They keep basically getting me with these little extra things that they put in the sports games, and it's happened again this year, and I won't buy it. I won't pay more than like $30 for it. But I want NHL 18 because it's got this NHL 3s mode, which is like an old school 3-on-3 arcade style, but in the NHL game. And just as a baseline, I will have more interest in hockey games over anything else. I'll be more likely to buy the NHL games when they come out. But I'm like, I can't spend that much on a sports game, but goddamn you, EA, you got me with something, and I want to buy NHL 18 for the similar reason that I wanted to buy this, and it's because it's got a retro mode in it. And man, if you haven't seen the hat that comes with the special edition mode of that game, oh man, look up the hat, the MVP mode or whatever it's called, MVP edition for that game. Titanfall 2. I remember thinking last year, or basically the end of 2016, when I was seeing what was coming out in 2017, and Titanfall 2 was coming out, and Watch Dogs 2 was coming out, and I thought to myself, I'm like, why do people want sequels of those games? They were not good. And it's like, the developers, I guess, wisely powered through it and put the games out anyway, and put out sequels for them, basically to be like, yeah, this is what we wanted to do the first time, and this is what you got all excited for. And I've heard so much about Titanfall 2, the sequel to a game that I could not have less interest in, because it's online only. It was online only from the start, and there never was going to be a single player. And that is the definition of games I'm not interested in. I would want to play Overwatch, but I know that I'm not going to put enough time into it to really enjoy it. Same thing with Titanfall 1 or Destiny or any of those games. But Titanfall 2, I've heard so much about the single player in this game, and it's fantastic, and it's everything that it was supposed to be the first time. And I bought it for $10 on Amazon, and I was like, God, it's going to be $5 at some point. It's dropping so quick. But the amount of talk that I've heard about it, I'm like, you know what? I really want to try it. People are talking about it way too much. So Titanfall 2, hopefully I'll try that soon. And then these last two kind of go together. It's weird to find in a store, let alone a GameStop, when you see games like this that are the kind of games that I like to buy, the, $30, $40 titles on Amazon that I always kind of like, I have to hesitate in buying them, not because I can't just buy every one, but because some of them really are bad, and some of them are really good. So World to the West is one of the more interesting looking ones that I've seen, and it's like a puzzle adventure with, these 4 different characters. I can't say that much about it because I know enough that I was like, yeah, it's supposed to be good and I want to buy it. And then this, the Sexy Brutale, which is now the second game I own, published by Badland. Badland published Axiom Verge, which I haven't played, of course. But this is a really cool looking adventure game, like a adventure murder mystery game. Takes place in like a burlesque house or something like that, or a masquerade ball, I guess. It's got sexy in the title. I'm forgiven for thinking it's a burlesque house, but apparently there's like time travel stuff in there, like really cool elements of the storytelling. So I've heard that this is really cool, and this, same with this. I think I paid like $15 each for these, which is a little bit less than what they went for new. I think these are both $30 games. So sometimes it's nice to actually have that. And Sexy Brutale has a big old manual, which never happens anymore, obviously, and a soundtrack disc. So that was definitely incentive to pick that up immediately. And with that, that's it. Which is to say, that's a hell of a lot of stuff. But yeah, that was really, really cool stuff this month. Picked up basically a lot of that stuff in the last 2 weeks after Christmas. You can imagine why. I had no money before Christmas, and then I got money for Christmas. That's what happens. But yeah, that's some cool stuff there. I also got, actually, I'll just mention this lastly. This is another thing I ordered off Amazon. It's allows me to put HDMI into, I assume, into OBS. I hope it works out that way. So I basically would like to have the option to stream, not with commentary necessarily, but to stream really anything that I have in this room here next to me. It's just a nice option. Just to have either a second screen or to be able to stream is cool. So hopefully that works out. Hopefully I'll actually play more stuff that I end up deciding not to, because I'm like, yeah, just put something on TV. But that's it. Thank you. I'll have Wildlife Country Club streaming later on Twitch and then on here. That is the next game on the N64 Quest. And thank you. Again, signing off for real this time. Bye-bye.